I'm a child of a family business, so I saw that growing up and never thought that I would be in that situation. I literally ran screaming from that as fast as I could. But when Mark started his practice and then when I got involved, I only got involved after we set some really clear ground rules. So I'd obviously had my own career and my own, professional experience independent of him. And so it had to be very clear that I came in with authority. So I wasn't coming in as the wife doing the books on the weekend. I was coming in with authority to be the CEO, to drive the business.
You set the guidelines.
And I think because I had seen my parents run a business, and my mum was the mum who swanned in and did the payroll on Thursday and, had an active role in the business. But that's not me. I've never been her, and I've always had a very independent career. But I also thought that coming together with two very different skill sets with a similar philosophy for client service would only be beneficial if we had a clear mandate on one side of the fence. And, like everybody, they all believe that they are a marketer and, he tiptoes into my side of the patch every now and then and decides that he's going to show me how to do something. And I just casually say, well, I'll just do the next shareholder agreement. And, he's like, okay, so he backs off and goes back into his zone. But I was very conscious of the optics of a married couple in a professional sense. And I didn't want to be the wife that was coming in to sort of dilly-dally.
You wanted to be a leader.
I needed to be a leader, and I needed to have his backing and authority to make decisions because I was leading a group of lawyers, and I needed to be very clear in my own footing of why I was there and what my mandate was and what I was hoping to achieve. And, he's just backed me 100% in that endeavour, and I think it's worked really well.
So maybe perhaps the secret sauce towards, it's not even just married couples, it's just kind of like business partners, is setting the foundation at the start. This is why we're partners. This is what I focus on and what I'm able to do, and that's what you do and that's what you focus on. That you have found has been really important.
Really important because you do have boundary issues because you're living and working together. So also the opportunity to sort of say, when do we stop talking about business and actually start talking about stuff that's non-business related? And that's hard because anyone who's in their own business knows that it is a 24/7 consuming idea or passion that you have.
That you like to talk about.
And you like to talk about, but it's not very, sexy when you're sort of having conversation about, oh yeah, I got those invoices out today, and I just need to follow up with that client, and you kind of need to go, would I be saying that if my partner wasn't involved in the business? And it's an active, I suppose, decision about what you do.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of the married couple running the business. And I just think in all partnerships in general, the most important thing because partnerships go sour. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I've spoken to where the worst thing that happened was having a business partner.
Yep.
And I think having that clear set ground rules from the start is probably the most important thing. It's like when you're building a house, you need a foundation. That's
exactly right. And I think if you're in a professional sense, you would have clear boundaries, you'd have clear job descriptions, you'd know exactly which department you sat in, you'd know what your expectations are.
Who you're reporting to.
Who you report to. And he's very clear that he reports to me. So, there's no issues there whatsoever. But I think it's just something that is good business practice. Clarity, clear communication, clear setting of expectations minimises everybody's disappointment or lack of performance. I've worked since I was 13. I've saved from every paycheck since I was 13. I've been planning my retirement since I was 15. Sad but true. And I think it was just something that, I could do and gave me a reason to keep working and striving. I'm a bit of a goal-orientated person, so it kind of fit neatly, I think, into my personality type. But I can almost mark my career by, the property I purchased because it might have been in the city that I was moved to work for or needed it for some particular reason.
And are there any types of properties that you prefer to purchase, or what are the things you look for when buying property?
I normally buy unique. So if the property has something that is different to the mainstream, it always has a value slightly higher than its competitor set.
It's kind of like having your as a business having your, what's that called?
A unique, USB.
Yeah, what's that stand for again?
Unique selling proposition.
Yeah, it's like hey, your property. You could look at the property like it's a business. What's unique? Why is this the best one?
And as strange as it sounds, being inside a building and having a feeling for it. So every single property I've ever purchased, the moment I've walked into it, I've just known in my gut that it was the right one. Like I'd done all the analysis, and then I would go back and sanity check my instinct on it with analysis and a kind of financial review of it. But you have to kind of get a sense, because I believe buildings have, they have a soul, they have personality, they have a reason for being, and they have a history. So you can leverage off that for, potential selling it down the track, or for renting it out, or for understanding who the tenant you might want in there is.
I know you've grown a bit of a property portfolio now. Is that something you would continue, or do you feel like eventually you get to a point where, okay, no, that I have enough property, I'd look at something else?
Yeah, no, we had a plan, pretty clear plan of what we needed in order to manage the rest of our kind of existence. And we've got a mix of commercial and residential in both the super fund and in our personal names. And we've got enough now. The commercials are really the revenue generating engine for when we stop working, so that we know that that's there. And the residential are really for growth and capital. And so we can then sell those off in order to sort of have a little bit more cash, and pay off the commercials, which will then be the revenue generating engine.
Yeah. But so you've got a plan.
I've got a plan,
It's essentially like a business plan. This is our business plan for our property investment.
Definitely. And so now it's all about paying them off. So the excess funds, is kind of looking to sort of pay off the most relevant asset.
To pay off the commercial assets.
Yeah.
So that once it's all paid off, you're earning an even higher return.
Yep.
So by the time you finish retiring, it's fully paid off and you're getting a full return from it.
And then they pay off the resis if there's any shortfall, not that there is in.
But I like the idea of that it's like a business plan for your property investment. Anything in life, I could pretty much relate to business somehow. Business is the greatest metaphor there is of life ever.
I tended to, once again, go into environments where I was the first woman to do things, not out of any desire to be the first woman. I just seemed to find myself in these circumstances. And I think it came back to my first corporate job with Mars Confectionery, and they were an American company, very egalitarian, and it was all about merit. And that really set the foundation for me about success. And I didn't see it as a gender issue until I went to Uncle Toby's, that was like being back in the 1950s, and I was the first woman in an executive team, and they didn't quite know what to do with me. But I didn't know there was anything wrong with the way I was approaching things. And I was lucky enough to have a line manager who saw me for my abilities, saw what he wanted to create, thought I was the right match, and was prepared to, let me go as long as I needed to go. I was happy to go on my own, but then was prepared to step in if he needed to box some ears, if I wanted some ear boxing done. And I'm grateful for those opportunities, but it's tough, there's not one woman I know that hasn't had, a negative, poor experience with someone treating them badly in the workplace. And we all just brush it aside and go, I just have to suck it up. I don't want to make a fuss, all those kind of, challenges. But I just tried to sort of move out of that dialogue and out of that experience and think, well, I can only control myself, and I can only control the environment, that I'm in. I can't fight the big, massive fight. So I can try and make changes with the people around me, the way I run businesses, the way I manage people, the environment that I wanted people to come into, so our workplace. And I think that whether it's a gender issue, whether it's an age issue or a race issue, difference helps you be better. And having a mirror, shown up to you, or a different opinion. And this is why, going back to my earlier comment, that I think it's such a tragedy that we're not allowed to debate. We're not allowed to point out, that you're different, or explore the ideas that you think differently, feel differently, walk differently.
Try to understand each other.
Try to understand, I think that we'd be better off if we're all just a little less precious and a little more focused on, the similarities rather than the differences. And I see this very much in our organisation because we're, small, but I refuse to have this fee earner, non-fee earner culture in our company, which is rife in law firms, that if you're a non-fee earner, you're a non-legal person, you don't exist. You're, just a cost. Where the way I see it is that our customers benefit from everybody's involvement. And that can be, our outsourced kind of admin person in the Philippines who's getting all the back of house done. It could be the, Sydney-based private school educated lawyer. It could be, the salesperson that doesn't have anything to to do with law, all of those contributions means the output for that client is better, richer, fuller. And so they're the only things I can do in my capacity as a female business owner.
And what would you say is a positive thing that has come as a female business owner? What's something positive that has perhaps come from some of the negative experiences that you may have experienced?
Made me really strong. Made me really
Made you tough.
Yeah.
Which is the most important thing you need. Like we said, resilience is the most important thing you need in business.
It is. And I think it's really interesting. Some feedback I got as a young executive was that my compassion and my empathy and my womanly ways was going to be like the death of my career. And I've just gone, we'll just see about that.
Yeah.
You know, if that still makes me different, but I can manage both things, but then more of those circumstances arose, and it just sharpens your I suppose your resolve to do things differently